Welcome, guys. This is All for United. Oh, I can hear myself again. I had my YouTube stream open. That doesn't help, does it? Welcome back to All for United. It's last words, and we are back live on a wicked weekend for United. Let's face it. We're going to talk about the Southampton game in a little bit more detail in a bit. But first things first, we have to talk about the break-in transfer news. And it looks like Manchester United have agreed a deal with Antony. It looks like everything's just a formality now after agreeing the fee with Ajax. So Stu, let's come to you. We've got some wicked reds on. Stu, Richie, Marcus, Mr. Tom, Gavin, all here. Guys, get in the live chat. Have your say whilst the guys do. I suppose first thing first, without getting into the nitty gritty, let's just have some general thoughts. Stu, Antony's going to be a red.
Yeah. I quite like him, but let's be clear. You know, I've got to be honest. I didn't know about Antony 18 months ago. I know Mr. Tom did because he watched Ajax, but I didn't. So I can't hear. I'm not going to sit here and rave about him and say I know everything about the player and he's going to be a game changer for Manchester United, because I'm sure he is going to be. But time will tell. Let's put it that way over the period of time. My reservation, and we were just having a quick chat backstage, is what we do with him. You know, does he come in at left wing or does he come in and play at right wing? I know he's played at right wing for Ajax. You know, as far as I can see, he can't play down the middle. So who do you put down the middle? And where's the goals going to come? Because he's not a 20-goal season striker. Will he give us the assists? I doubt it. Will he give us the penetration? Absolutely. And will he give us the mesmerising skill that fans today love? Yeah. But if there's no end product, it's kind of pointless. It kind of reminds me of Ronaldo back when he was 17. He would dazzle you with his footwork and his end product. He had to work on it. Took him a good 18 months to get his end product absolutely to where it needed to be. You can't have that with Antony. He's going to have to come in and really hit the ground running. The flip side of that is, obviously, Ten Hag knows him well. He knows how to utilise him. And obviously, Antony knows Ten Hag really well. And he's pushed for this move. So, you've got to give him credit. 80 million quid, well, make that what you will. To me, it's maybe, I'd say 40 million, higher than what we should have been paying for him. But anyway, look, I'm not a money man at United. It ain't my money. It's up to them. But all in all, quite excited. But talk to me again in 6 months, and then I'll really be either excited or I'll be like, well, give him 12 months. It'd be one of those for me.
Yeah, Richie, come on, same question to you, mate. Obviously, emotions are obviously high. He's going to be our most expensive summer signing. He's going to be our marquee signing this summer as well. Naturally, a lot of pressure on his shoulders, a lot of pressure on Ten Hag to get it right. It's a big fee, but on the ground level, like Stu was saying there, as a fan, excited by the Antony signing?
I'm excited because for me, with obviously having Sancho potentially playing on the other side with him, I think having more creators in the team for us as a whole is better. I think it works better for the forward line, having him one side, Sancho the other. Potentially, if we do get another striker or Martial plays, then I'm happy. I don't want to really see Rashford occupy any of the wings because I don't think he creates enough than what Antony and Sancho would do. The price, personally, that's how football is nowadays. Like, we're seeing Chelsea bidding 60 plus for that Anthony Gordon. Is he worth it? Maybe not. It's not our money, like Stu said. So, yeah, but I'm happy. At least we've got him in, and potentially let's try and get a couple more deals. And that's about it, really.
Yeah, we'll talk some more around the nitty gritty of the transfer and the player and where he fits in. But I do agree with you. It's going to be interesting to see where he fits in, and then where that means Sancho fits in too. Because he was the answer to our right wing problems just a year or so ago. Let's come over to you, Gavin. How do you feel, mate? How do you feel about the news tonight that Antony signing?
I mean, if you're looking for the balancing options when you're moving forward with the right side and the left, we've now got a player each side that can do flair in the sense of Sancho and Antony, and you've got players who can be pacey and direct with Rashford and Elanga. So when you're looking at balance in attack, depth and options, it can only be a positive. I think the running theme will be output, Eredivisie, can he do it in the Premier League, and obviously the price tag. I know that it's easy to say, well, it's not our money, but technically it is. I don't think Glazers are paying out of their own pocket. I think they're using funds generated by the club. So, and it's a panic thing as well. We all know that if they'd have done this deal early, then they would have been saving 40, maybe 50 million. But it is what it is. We're at the end. We're in that sort of desperation street. I'm just glad that it's a signing of his ilk rather than what we were looking at before the Glazers out thing really kicked into gear. I'd rather bring in someone of his quality than start getting desperate and bringing in the likes of an Ighalo, the likes of a Cavani. I mean, even to a certain extent, where they were looking at like Rabiot and Arnautovic, that isn't really where we should be looking if we're starting to have a rebuild. So I'm really excited to see what he's going to do. I think he will be a success. I just hope that the price tag doesn't hold him down like it's done with Grealish in his first season, like it's done with Maguire to a certain extent.
Yeah, it's interesting because the fee's probably, I think it's exactly the same as the Maguire fee. I think it's just over £80 million with £4 to £5 million add-on. So I think that is the same kind of structure deal that we did have or did put in place for Maguire. Marcus, let me come over to you. You've already put some thoughts on Twitter. What do you think of the Antony signing?
I won't lie, Ben. I'm kind of drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm excited. I think it's a fantastic signing. Obviously, the price isn't ideal. I've been talking about the price for a very long time, and I think it's an absolute disgrace that we're paying this much for someone, considering we need a lot in the team. However, you can separate how the Glazers run the club and be frustrated at that while still being excited for the individual quality that a player brings to the team. So that's where my headspace is at. And I think that Antony will bring a lot to this team. Much like Sancho, he can't do it on his own. It will depend on how we play as a team. It will depend on how the fullbacks operate and build relationships with Antony and Sancho. But it's nice to have another winger who's good technically, another winger who can actually hug the touchline and do what a winger is supposed to do, as opposed to someone who's always looking to cut in and shoot and be one-dimensional. You know, that's the nice thing about Antony. Yes, his goals and assists aren't particularly great, especially considering he was playing in the Eredivisie, but goals and assists don't mean everything. You know, you can contribute to a team without necessarily scoring goals and assists. You know, there are other metrics that quantify being a good player. So the only fear I have of Antony and the only sort of, you know, the cynic in me is saying, like, maybe, you know, Antony at that price tag, the perception around him and the expectation is going to be so high that from day one it's just going to be difficult for him. Much like Sancho, like, I think a lot of people have there's this myth that's been created that Sancho hasn't been playing that well in a United shirt because of his price tag, when actually I think he has actually played well considering the circumstances. And I think it will be the same with Antony. People are going to judge him based on his price tag and not based on what he's actually meant to bring to the team, you know. And it's unfair, but it is what it is, you know. So that's the only negative element of this transfer. But apart from that, I'm buzzing.
Yeah, Mr. Ton, before I come over to you, because I think out of everyone on the panel, you might have watched Ajax the most, know a bit more about Antony than most of us, because I've got to admit that I'm going to come from the view that I think I've watched Antony play twice, and a few times that I've seen him play. And Stu, we talk about this a lot. As football fans and people that play football, when you watch someone, you can more or less tell by their first touch and what they do the first time they get hold of the ball, if they're a player or not. You can sort of tell because they've just got that certain IQ and a certain way that they carry themselves on the pitch that you can see that there's something there. There's a spark there. Antony has that spark. He has that spark, but he also has something else about him as well. As a young kid, he's quite raw and he wants to take players on and is hungry. When it comes to the price tag, I've put this out there. I sort of don't care. I understand what you're saying, Gavin. Obviously this isn't being funded by the Glazers, but I'd rather we give Ajax 80 million quid than more dividends come out this football club. So I absolutely do not care about the money. And at the end of the day, Manchester United is a business. You either pay that money and invest in the team, or you end up paying it in tax anyway. So ultimately, let's spend the money on the players whilst we're making the revenue. So the fee to me doesn't matter. But it's a massive pressure for any player to have such a fee and a price put on their head. But do you know what I love about this? And this is going to sound really twisted, lads, and I hope you get this the right way. Antony has gone, Ajax, let me go. I've had a record-breaking amount of money been put up for me. I want to go and prove myself. And you've got a 22-year-old kid there that just from the outside looking in, he's thriving off of this. He wants to be that most expensive player in Eredivisie's history. Like, he wants to go out there and prove a point. And for me, it's like, well, this kid's either going to come in and he's going to sink or swim. That's exciting as a fan. I want him to carry that on the pitch with him. I want him to prove a point, because with his natural talent and ability that I've seen in only a few appearances, and from what I've heard, to then have that extra bit of flavour added in, week out at Old Trafford in the Premier League, up against the world's best players. I mean, this is a kid here that can go on to achieve incredible things, and he's at the right age as well, with the right manager who trusts him, knows how to get the best out of him. Marcus, I agree. The best things that I've heard from Ajax fans aren't about his, so to speak, goal output or his attacking stat output. It's what he does off the ball. It's what he does in defence. It's what he does for the team. And he's worth his weight in gold for that. And I will just come back quickly to the assists and goal stats. And I shouldn't do this. I went back through Rafinha, who's just signed for Barcelona. His stats over the past 3 years, around the same age as Antony. Go and have a look at them. They're worse than Antony's. I mean, not for last year, but the years before that. I went back, and again, it's not a direct comparison, but I went back through some Brazilian greats, the likes of Rivaldo, Ronaldinho, players who used to do jobs on the left and right or in behind. These aren't players that I'm comparing to Antony, but they're not players that do 40 goals, 40 assists in 80 games. Brazilian players aren't about that. They offer different flavour. They offer different spice. They go about their game differently. And it's more what they do connecting the team up than what they actually do in front of goal. And I think Antony's another one of those players. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling on, but they're my thoughts on Antony. I think it's an extremely exciting transfer. And Mr. Ton, I'd love to hear from you, your thoughts on this, A, but also B, what player are United getting here? Because you've seen a bit more of him than the rest of us.
Big things I spoke about with Stu one time was character and temperament. And that is the most important thing, like you just said, is going to thrive on that. This is not someone, I don't want to, bash someone like Sancho, but he's a timid personality, timid character. Antony is not like that. He's outlandish. He's brave. He's got that temperament. He's got that dog mentality. You've seen it with Malacia. You've seen it with Alessandro, right? People can say they're from the Eredivisie, but the mentality is right. That's what's important, mentality, and he has that. I remember watching, there was like 3 games in a row. I know some people might not like it, but literally 3 games in a row. So there was one game he went to headbutt a player because he was pissed off. The player was scrapping him. Then there was the Nunes game. And then literally the game after that in the league, he went to headbutt another player. So that's 3 games in a row. He's got that fight. Like, and I like that personally. Some people might not like it, but that shows me a certain character you have on the pitch. Rooney had it. Everyone remember Rooney had that. Tevez had it. That's what we need. We need more warriors and fighters in this team. And that's what I personally want. And as for the play itself, I think how important he is for Ten Hag's system showed last season. When Ten Hag lost him, he had to change his whole formation. And he mentioned it after a game. I don't have the speed and the creativity of Antony. So he had to change it because of one player. And that's how important that one player is to his system. So we can talk about goals, we can talk about assists, but how that one player is important to his system matters a lot. He said it himself. He said he can be one of the world's best players. He also said his national team needs more players in it like Antony. This is from our manager now, when he was Ajax manager. So he clearly values and the potential of this player highly for his system. He had him for 2 years. He saw what he can do, saw what he's capable of. And he obviously thinks he can even go up some more gears. That the fact that he wants to bring him to United, which is, I'm behind it. Like you said, the price, I've always said this, Trenose knows I've said this. Listen, your value is whatever the selling club wants to sell you at and whatever the buying club wants to buy you at. If the buying club wants to say, look, I don't want you, they turn around. But clearly they want you, the manager wants you. There's nothing people can do about it. Listen, if the channel wouldn't get strike, I'll be playing Jogo Benito right now, the music, and dancing. Yeah. Listen, we ain't had a left-footed winger flair for a while. And yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it, man. I'll be honest with you. But one thing that does concern me is striker. Antony attempts a lot of crosses, right? Who's getting on to the end of that? That's what concerns me the most, because I didn't even know, because someone pulled out the stats for me. He even attempts more crosses than Dembele at Barcelona. Do you know what I mean? So who's getting on the end of those crosses? That's another situation. But I feel like he will thrive, especially because we've got Casemiro now. Ten Hag said it. Casemiro is the cement between the stones. So what's that's going to allow him to do? He's going to stop it. He's going to step in between the centre backs. It's going to now, the tactic that he tried to do in pre-season with the fullbacks pushing up a bit more and overlapping with the wingers, we now can do that with Casemiro now back in the team. And it's going to create that, what Antony likes to do. His game is very repetition. So get the ball, try to cut in. If that option's not there, cross. If that option's not there, wait for the fullback to overlap and pass to him. It's very like, you're going to see it. You're going to see his game is like repetition. Ten Hag's got his game literally. It's like, you know exactly what he's going to do, but because of his flair, you can't stop it, if that makes sense, which I'm looking forward to.
I'm looking forward to it now as well. Let's go to Ben Josh, who's put a comment in. We're starting to sign players who don't seem fazed by the magnitude of playing for Man United. We are signing very confident footballers. John says Ten Hag wants him, but it's an extortionate fee. Rather like Casemiro, I do think it's desperate, but a good signing. Should have signed him sooner and cheaper. Can't lose sight of behind the scenes. We'll come back to this in a bigger conversation, but I hate how this word desperate keeps being used. Like, there is such a thing in business as opportunity. And whether it's something you want to open, and sorry, John, this isn't directed personally at you. I'm talking about this holistically, like amongst the fan base. Whether you want to open your eyes to it or not, a football club is now a business. And if your business has got the opportunity to acquire an asset, whether that's last minute or late in the transfer window, but it's worth doing for a number of different reasons, then you've got to do it. We saw 10 minutes of Casemiro the other day, and I've never felt safer with our midfield. Like, just the things he was doing on the pitch, it was ridiculous. And it was just a start, and it was the bare basics. But these opportunities you have to take. Again, someone like Antony, like Mr. Tom was saying there, he's a work in progress. But you get it right, you've potentially got one of the best players in world football. Like, you literally have, because he's got that ceiling. So you've got to take these opportunities. And whether they're at the start of the window or the end of the window, the most important thing is the manager wants them. That's the most important thing. And Ten Hag clearly wants these players
as well.
Sorry, say that again, Gavin?
He's wanted him since the start of the transfer window as well.
Yeah.
It's something that's been, it's not, this particular signing is not desperate in the sense of let's see who's available. He has wanted him since the start of the window.
Yeah.
I just want to quickly hit Andrew here. He should play off the right, but could play either side. I guess Sancho and him. What worries me is down the middle, Martial always injured, and Ronaldo may be gone. Guys, keep getting your comments in. Hit a like on the video. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Stu, let me come over to you about that, because Mr. Tom's made that point about our front line now. So let's start living in a dream world, shall we? You've heard about Antony and what he can deliver. You know the other options we've got at this club. Let's say Ronaldo's staying. What's our best front three?
You have to play Ronaldo because nobody else is as reactionary in the 6-yard box. I talk about it all the while. I spoke about our number 11. Everyone was telling me in the comments, banging on. He's a future number 9, future number 9, future number 9. You've got to understand centre forward play. You really have got to understand where you live. You live in the 9 yards from the penalty spot to the goal line. That's your home. That's where you thrive. We haven't got that. If you aren't 2-3 seconds quicker than anyone else in that phase of the play, you won't score. You know, look at Cavani. Even at 30, whatever he was when he joined us, he's still got that spark. Ruud van Nistelrooy famously said, and Andy Cole, I interviewed Andy Cole for an hour at Le Mans in 2017. I had a long chat with him about centre forward play. He said to me, the last 10% of reactionary play, you can't teach it. You can't teach it. You can teach it around the box, but you cannot teach that spark. And he had it. Dwight York had it. Ronaldo's got it. Ruud van Nistelrooy had it. These are the very, very best strikers in world football. And we don't have that outside of Ronaldo. We just don't have it, okay? Liverpool don't play with that number 9. You look at the way that that Diaz plays, which is actually very reminiscent, Mr. Ton, to the way that Antony plays, what Diaz does for Liverpool. Really quite similar. You're absolutely right. The way Mo Salah plays, they're struggling now in the middle. They're struggling. All right, forget this freak result from the weekend. They're struggling to convert the chances that Mane would offer, although Mane is a different type of player. We haven't got that. We don't have that player that can live and feed in the 9 yards, which is where Antony and Sancho. That's, by the way, it's why Sancho's not looking as dangerous as what he did at Dortmund, because he got Haaland to feed off him all the time. Haaland was just rubbing his hands together. Sebastian Haller, we all know how bad he was in the Premier League. Gets into the Eredivisie. They changed the way that he plays his game, and he fed off Antony, didn't he? That's what he was about. We need that hunger. And I'm sorry, we've got to go and we've got to find it. You either keep Ronaldo, and I don't care what anybody says, you can have a pop at me as much as you like about keeping Ronaldo, but you've got to have somebody who can put the ball in the back of the net and live within those 9 yards off the penalty spot.
It just doesn't happen. Stu? Like because the Fresh Prince as well, I would disagree. We play better without Ronaldo. He's good as a sub. He doesn't fit into our system. But that depends the jobs of that front three. For example, Antony's going to do a very different job than what Rashford would do on the left and Sancho would do on the right. So then you've got to mould your number 9 around then the output of those two wingers, whoever they are. For instance, if it's Rashford, I potentially wouldn't play Ronaldo down the middle because Rashford needs someone that will come short to him and then allow him to spin off and run in behind. So Ronaldo doesn't work like that. He's not going to work alongside Rashford in a front three. It's going to become too digested. That's why when United were playing Greenwood, Ronaldo and Rashford, you had 3 number 9s playing in the front 3 position, and literally every single time they just wanted to do that. That's all they wanted to do. They just wanted to attack the goal. That's all they wanted to do, shoot and attack the goal. Where now you've got Sancho who can play off and around, and you've got Antony who can spread the play and get the ball in the box a little bit more, plus 2 fullbacks getting in behind as well. That's where you need a proper number 9, and that's where Martial's potentially struggled in the past. So I slightly disagree and agree with every comment in some way, but it definitely depends on personnel and system, but that could be different.
Let me refer you to the Arsenal away game. The type of goal that Ronaldo scored, there's nobody in our squad will score that goal. Not a player in our squad will score that goal, and that was a Tellez cross. But the way that he took it down between 2 centre halves, and I still have the ability to love it. That's a centre forward. This is what I'm trying to understand. That people can talk about this and that, and how players are better out the system and players. Look, a centre forward doesn't play to a system, right? A centre forward is the greediest motherfucker on the planet, and that's what he should be. He crosses that white line. If I don't fucking score today, lads, I'm going to knock you all down like a bowling ball and bowling pins, because that's what it should be.
No, but the wide players need to. The wide players need to play in the system. It's so important that the two on the side do.
Yeah, Ruud and Andy Cole, if they didn't score, wouldn't speak to anybody after the game. Wouldn't speak to a soul. You should have fucking passed it to me. You should have done this. You need. I say this all the time, Ben. You need bad winners and bad losers. I'm a terrible winner and a terrible loser. A good, solid centre forward. By the way, and I was never a centre forward, but good centre forward, terrible winner. I ain't scored enough. I should be scoring 30 goals a season. That's the mentality. It's got fuck all to do with whether a centre forward fits into a system or not. He's gone. He's out the way. The system is all about getting the ball to him and then letting him do the rest. 1 shot, 1 goal. That's a true number 9.
Well, go on then, Richie. Let me ask you this question and just slightly word it a bit different, like sort of conversation around me and Stu have been having there and some of the comments as well. To get the best out of Antony, do we need Ronaldo in the side, or do you believe that Martial or Rashford at 9 can still get the best out of Antony?
Going off, basically, if we're going with just Antony, I think we do need a centre forward like Ronaldo. Like Stu said, you can't really play Rashford through the middle, I don't think, because I don't believe he's a centre forward. Ronaldo, we know he obviously didn't start off as a centre forward, but he's transitioned into that now, and that is exactly what he is. I don't think we have a centre forward in our squad or even in the academy that potentially does what Ronaldo does. So you have to play Ronaldo. As much as I would go against it, I wouldn't play him personally, but you're going to have to.
Yeah, and what about Sancho, Richie? How Sancho in the left for you, or do you play Rashford?
No, Sancho all day. Sancho all day.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting as well, isn't it, Gavin? Let me come over to you and ask you about Dallo. So that's going to be interesting pair up down that right hand side, isn't it?
He's been doing really well. I still think we need somebody to push him, similar to what we did when we brought Tellers in to push Luke Shaw and now Malacia as well. I don't think AWB is going to be a sufficient backup because something that we need is a bit of balance. We want the overlapping, we want the offensive fullback, but we also want them to get back and defend as well. I think we're lacking when it AWB because of his lack of ability with crossing the ball and getting in an offensive play. I do think Dallo has improved that game. He played against Southampton. He was one of the standout players in a very different game than we're used to of late. I think he's going to do well, but I would like. I mean, I know that Ten Hag wants to bring. He was talking about Dumfries, so I would like to see if we dip into the market to get somebody in, but I don't think so because although we had an offer for AWB, I don't think the club would accept it because of how low it was. Even though we're not really going to get a lot for him, especially with him not being in the first team set this season. He's not going to be chosen as the first player.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for Dallo. I'm not his biggest fan, but the last two games I've seen, Mr. Ton, you said the word dog earlier. I've seen a dog in Dallo, and it's actually been quite nice. It's the they shall not pass mentality, and then when he's got and had the ball, he's been a lot more calmer on it. He used to be really erratic when he'd get the ball and he'd have the ball at his feet. He's been a lot more calmer on it. I think the cross to Bruno is actually evidence of that. Before that would have gone miles past the far post, and he'd have tried to whip it in there. But he was a lot calmer and he was searching for bodies, and I like that. But it was also a great run from Bruno as well, and a really good finish. Marcus, let me just go through a couple of comments that you can reflect off of, because I know you'd probably like to have pitching on the whole striker debate as well. Apex says, who expects Ronnie to come deep and expect him to run up the pitch? He is waiting in the box, ready to pull the trigger. 1 out of 2 chances, it's in. Jarvis says, Stu, the problem is our squad. We can't accommodate Ronaldo. Everyone needs to contribute defensively for it to work. And sadly, Ronaldo just huffs and puffs up front when pressing. And Fred Woodward, good to see you, mate. Hope you're well. Needs to get you back on soon. You've not been on in ages. Where you been? There is no doubt that Ronaldo is our best and only traditional striker. The onus is on the club in that they did not replace a player who does not want to be here. What do you make of it, Marcus?
Sorry, man. Just before Marcus comes in, all I was saying was I was making reference to a number 9, not necessarily Ronaldo, but that's all we've got at our disposal. But I'm really making reference to a number 9. So Jarvis, I get Jarvis's point, but I was just making reference to a 9. That was all.
Go on, Marcus.
Yeah, you see, the problem with Cristiano Ronaldo, I think, regardless of what you think of him as a player, regardless of what you think of his abilities, you cannot have a 37-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo sitting on the bench for the rest of the season. It just does not work, simply because there will be a lot of issues off the pitch. And I'm not suggesting that Ronaldo himself will cause issues, but I'm suggesting that the media will. And every single week, you're going to get asked questions about Cristiano Ronaldo. Every single week, we're going to see the camera panning into Cristiano Ronaldo whenever there's a goal scored. We won't see him high-fiving players. We won't see all the positive stuff. We'll see all the negative stuff. So I think for Erik ten Hag's sake, he's almost in a lose-lose situation where he has to play Cristiano Ronaldo if he does stay, whether he's happy or not. And on the point about, whether Antony would be better, maybe Sancho would benefit from having Ronaldo in the team. Again, it all depends on the rest of the team. As Jarvis pointed out, like, people need to work defensively, but also on the ball, people need to understand that the ultimate goal is to ping a cross in. Now, Antony can do that. We know that Dalot when he wants to, can do that. Even though he hasn't shown a lot of it, he's shown flashes of it. I mean, the goal we scored against Southampton was a lovely delivery. So you've got two players already there who can ping in across, and then you're looking at Malacia and Sancho and saying, hey, can you guys now also chip in? Because we've got two players who can do it. Can you guys do it? And that's going to depend on their ability to build a long-term relationship. And I think if we can get that part right, then absolutely play Ronaldo every single game, because Martial is not your number 9 who's going to run to the middle, and even if he was, he can't stay fit. Rashford's not that guy, so common sense says that it's got to be Ronaldo. And again, I repeat, you cannot bench a 37-year-old Ronaldo. I don't care what anybody says. Like, I'm not his biggest fan. I personally would have sold him. I personally have said that bringing him back long term was a mistake, but he's here now. You know what I mean? You can't be a genius in hindsight and be like, well, we shouldn't have signed him anyway, so we'll just keep him. No, he's here. We have to use him and get the best out of him whilst we still have time. I mean, if Cristiano Ronaldo scores 18 goals again in the league and we're a better team because we're pinging in crosses, I don't think anybody's going to have any complaints except, rival fans and Jamie Carragher, obviously.
Oh, obviously Jamie Carragher as well, and he doesn't like Richarlison, does he? So hey, Antony. Let's have a look. There's loads of messages coming in. Also, just so you guys know, Antony's agent has just put up an Instagram story saying here we go as well. So by the looks of it, everything's gonna move through tomorrow. Mr. Tom, what do you make about the whole front three question? I suppose who would be your strongest front three with Antony in it?
Definitely Sancho, and definitely Antony on the right, Sancho on the left. At the moment, I wouldn't go for a Martial because he wants to come to the ball so much, and we're trying to play in a different, way. Ronaldo, that's the problem because of his age and the pressing and the way how Ten Hag wants to press. I'm with Stu. We need just a number 9. If Ten Hag could mold Rashford a bit, great, because he said that at the end of the game yesterday at halftime, he told Rashford to be more of a target man. You need to be more of a target man. He said he done it better in the second half. You never know. But I definitely think if there's an opportunity to pounce before the window closes, we need to do that. I'm telling you this now. We need a number 9. We haven't had one in the team. That's the problem with this team right now. There's so many holes that we just haven't filled, and we still need to fill the goalkeeper, this position, centre mid. You saw it yesterday. Like we can't. We saw it the last few games. We can't control midfield. We can't keep the ball in midfield. We just can't control a game at all. There's so much holes we still need to peg. Like, okay, getting Lissandro, that's one hole. Getting Malacia, that's one hole. Getting now Antony, we needed a left foot or a right winger for a while now. That's another hole. Do you know what I mean? There's still so many more holes. So it's just a process, and I feel like eventually we'll get a striker. We was linked with quite a few. We got the Sesko, Nunes at the start of the window. There was another one. I forgot his name. There was another striker. We've been linked. It's clear that we do want a striker. It's clear. But if the opportunity arises, like Ten Hag said in his post-match press conference, then we'll approach that scenario if the opportunity arises. So let's see what happens, man. I'm pretty sure if Ronaldo leaves, we will see something.
I'll tell you what, if Mitrovic was 4 years younger, I love Mitrovic. I genuinely love Mitrovic. I think he's superb. I was watching Fulham the other day, and I've not watched a striker this weekend work harder than him.
He's old school.
Genuinely. He's old, but also he's old school. Every time the ball goes in towards him, you can see the ball going in the back of the net. You just can. He's one of those strikers, and it's weird how he's just blossomed over the past 2 years, but nothing went right for him before that, really. But he's just a really good striker. He just is, and he's one of those players as well that if he was at Ajax instead of Haller, he'd be the one getting that big move as well. He clearly works in a certain system. It's exciting though. United have options, and United have a frightening front line. I just want to pick up on a few things that have been said just to give my 2 pence. Throughout all of this Ronaldo saga, Ten Hag has said the words "Ronaldo's in my plans," yet hasn't shown Ronaldo to be in his plans. Well, maybe Antony coming in is the big plan for Ronaldo to be his number 9. But then on the flip side, Mr. Ton, I picked up on that as well. He was very complimentary of Rashford at the end of the game. after Southampton, really picking up on the fact that I told Rashford to do this, and even painted 3 different scenarios that he said Rashford did really well as the hold-up number 9. And I thought that was really interesting because as I was watching the game, I didn't notice it. And he sort of like picked it up. It's one of those things that just went completely over my head. And he was right. Rashford was quietly good in that second half and done what was needed of him in the moments that he needed to. I still think he's very lazy off the ball. Very lazy off the ball. But that can be fixed. That's something that can be fixed. That's application and so to speak, the manager putting his foot down with him. But clearly Ten Hag's given him that love. So who knows? I mean, we take the mix saying the arm around the shoulder and bits and pieces like that, but you just never know. Maybe that's something Rashford does need, and yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But anyway,
and Ben, one more thing, and when Ten Hag mentioned about strikers who he's got as his options, he said Rashford, Martial, and Ronaldo. Yeah. That's the 3 he said.
He did,
yeah, he did, and he was really impressed with Rashford against Liverpool. I think he saw something in Rashford that day. But again, my concern is when Rashford hasn't got that space in behind, can he come to the ball and can he do that hold-up play, which Ten Hag then praised him for at the Southampton game. So
that's my biggest concern about Rashford. It's the other parts of the game.
Yeah.
As a forward, if that makes sense. The running's not; it's the other parts, man.
Your trade-off.
I watched the Liverpool game with Rich, and trust me, we did the amount of bad touches and he had on that when in the build. That's the other part. The movement and running, he's got, and the energy can be there at times. It's just the other parts, man.
The trade-off is though, Ben, is you're not getting a near post header from six yards out. It's not happening. You know, and that's what Ronaldo will give you. Not every game, but it will give you that near post header from 6 yards. It might be a tight game. Antony whips across him, bang, thank you very much. He peels off and does his suit. This is the thing, you know, Rashford isn't going to do that. Do you remember our 99 Champions League run? The amount of goals, headed goals that Dwight York scored from the near post, from the far post. I'm talking in the 6 yard, in and around the 6 yard area.
Not a big guy either.
No,
not a big guy either. But that's we keep coming back to it. We say it's not just on the ball that you've got to have this, but also when you're not on the ball, to be able to paint a picture. To be able to paint that picture is massive. And if you can't, then you're always going to be a player that puts your head down and ends up in a cul-de-sac. That's what I like about Antony, by the way. Like Antony, again, the few times I've seen him, he knows where he's going. He knows what he wants to do as soon as he gets that ball to feet. Whether it's a bit of skill, he's already playing it out on what he's going to do. And I think that's so important.
Well, the caveat was, why I brought that up, Ben, is because we have Beckham in the side. That, you know, Dwight York, Andy Cole, they knew as soon as Beckham gets the ball, anything around 25 yards out, he's going to put the ball in. Bang. Thank you very much. I know where it's going to go. Beckham will put it on a plate for me. And I think Mr. Ton's alluding to Antony doing the same. So if he does the same, Rashford and Martial won't cut it for us. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Can I also just say,
if we're playing against a team like Liverpool, where he'll have space to turn and run into, you saw it in the second half against Liverpool, where Martial was doing the hold-up play, Rashford the overlapping. You got the fullback, and it was brilliant. Yeah, when you're going against a low block, which we're going to be doing for like 70% of the season, that's when you start to come into question of the likes of Martial and Rashford, because can they do it with the ball at their feet? Yes, in little dribbles every now and then they can do it, but having that IQ to be able to put it on the plate for the striker in that situation is a different ball game to having the interlinking play like they did in the Liverpool match, and especially with Martial being a little bit injury prone at the moment. I just feel that having, especially with the wingers and the fullbacks that we got, it's going to be a dream for Ronaldo playing in the middle of that, because it's not just the wingers that are going to be providing, it's the fullbacks as well.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Marcus, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I saw a couple of comments saying, like, which strikers would you get right now? And honestly, as much as I would welcome quite a lot of options, to be fair, because it's better than nothing, I think it's better for Erik ten Hag to look long term and say, you know what, actually, let me fix the rest of the team. Let me build a team that is accommodating of a traditional number 9, and then sign one. Because if we sign a player who's in their 30s, like a Raul Jimenez or Jamie Vardy or whoever your cup of tea is, right? We're not going to get the best out of them right now. Even if we bring them right now and say we're going to put in crosses, it's going to be a process. It's going to take time. The problem is with Antony is, as much as his natural game is to put in crosses, the rest of the team needs to adapt to that. And we just don't do that as a team yet. So there needs to be an adjustment period. So for me personally, I wouldn't be that pressed to bring in a replacement, if that makes any sense at all. I would rather bring in another right back, to be completely honest with you, than to buy a 30-year-old striker right now who we're going to be sat here 2 years from now saying he wants to leave. That's just my 2 cents.
It's weird that we're having this conversation, yeah. The last striker United inquired about, the last 2, one was Aubameyang and the other was Memphis, and only one of those 2 really gives you the output you need to have a player like Antony in your side. Yet the one that seems more realistic is actually Memphis, which wouldn't, so to speak, fit that profile, which is slightly odd.
Yeah.
But again, when you've got when you've got potentially Rashford and Martial behind Ronaldo in that pecking order, if that is the pecking order, well, where does Memphis sit within that? Because it's a similar profile to Martial, really, out the 3. So, yeah, very strange one. But I'm sure we'll have this conversation a lot more in the lead up to the transfer window. There's a few things being asked in here. Apex says there are too many games for our defence to play at an optimal level week in, week out. We need ball security, but that's what Casemiro's for. That's what he's there for, I think, more than anything. But let's talk about this show. Let's talk about Southampton. And we can't really talk about Southampton, Stu, without mentioning our back 4. Blimey. They had their porridge for breakfast. I mean, it was just a fantastic display from all 4 of them again.
Yeah. Well, look, it was from a centre half. It was a delight to watch. But let's not be naive at the fact that we've solved our defensive issues, because that's when you get burnt in football, I'm afraid. But let's just look at that single game then. Forget everything else, what's going to go on in the future and what's happened in the past. That was the most compact, aggressive, sensible, common sense, football sense display that I've seen in the last 3 years from a back 4 at Manchester United. It was unbelievable to see. It was brilliant. And I like your analogy, Ben. Someone has had their porridge. I did say prior to the Liverpool game, I think Marcus was on with me. We were talking about whether or not Manchester United could win the game. And my opening statement was, you never know in football. 9 days is a long time. You turn up one day and something clicks. The whistle goes and just something clicks. And that's exactly what happened with our back 4 on Saturday. And I would love to see it again Thursday against Leicester. But let's not be naive to say that it's a fixed issue, because anything can happen in football. What I'll say is, and Ben, me and you had this conversation, and Marcus was on the same show with us, when I started saying, look, think about Varane, think about who he's had beside him on, all throughout his career, a Ramos type player, a Pepe type player, and Martinez is that. He is that type of tenacious player that allows Varane to play his natural game. Now, I was like you. I thought he would play Martinez and Maguire together, but it's quite clear they don't fit. And it is very, very clear to me that Varane and Martinez do fit brilliantly together. They complement each other. They really do. Our issue is going to be moving forward is Varane is exceptionally injury prone. It's a little bit like Martial. We need to try and keep him fit. And I know he's on a single program away in terms of his development and his fitness development away from the main team. If that's going to be the way to keep him fit, for a chunk of the season, then great. So, again, we bow down to Mr. Tom and his information to us about Martinez, because let's all be fair, I'll hold my hands up. I didn't know much about the guy before he came to Manchester United, or we were linked with him. And Mr. Tom was telling us how he played. And by the way he was describing, I thought he'd be a great fit for Maguire. But seeing them together, Martinez and Varane, it's a different kettle of fish. It really is. And I think Varane, for the first time in his Manchester United career, has actually been comfortable. And I think it's slowly but surely making De Gea more comfortable as well. which sounds strange because you know my viewpoint on De Gea. He's just looking a little bit more comfortable. I'm not saying De Gea is our issue, we need a new goalkeeper, but that's another story. But he still stood out. He was still glued to his line, wasn't?
Well, I was going to say, how does he look more comfortable? Can you explain that one to me, please, Stu? You've lost me slightly.
Well, I've always said to you.
Or are you hoping?
No, well, I'm hoping. No, what I meant by that is, and I'll be brief, but I've always said to you that a centre half looks at his goalkeeper for comfort. Are you going to cover me? Are you going to be able to sweep up me, etc., etc.? A goalkeeper looks at a centre half for comfort as well. If somebody's going to come and bungle into me, are you going to get in there between them for me, please? That type of thing. And that's all I meant by that. But the travelling distance, by the way, was still there. That 10 to 15 yards travelling distance was still there. And we will get caught by quicker centre forwards. Haaland will feed off that all day long and he'll score a fucking hatful against us if we keep that centre. Can you imagine Mane with that gap that we have between Martinez, Varane and De Gea? It'd be going, we're going to be careful of that. But I'm going to agree with you, Ben. I don't normally agree with you on defence, but I'm going to agree with you. I think they just looked on that one game perfect. And I'm going to go with Gavin. And Gavin knows I don't like Dalot. And Gavin knows I much prefer to have Aaron Wan-Bissaka in the side. But hey, even I've got to hold my hands up and say Dalot was terrific.
Yeah, me too.
It was absolutely terrific. Sometimes you've got to do it. My face was like Mr. Ton's now. I was like, fucking hell, Dalot's playing well. Fuck me, what's going on?
I'm with you. Two brilliant games on the bounce from Dalot.
I've got to be honest. And Malacia, by the way, made a world of difference. Luke Shaw's done. Luke Shaw's finished now. He hasn't got a hope of getting in. One thing I would say, by the way, somebody said, and I can't remember who it was in the comments. It was a really good comment. I think it was Andy Tolbert. He just said, "We've got Dalot, we've got Aaron Wan-Bissaka, but don't rule out Williams." And I do agree with him. Don't rule out Williams because he's quite a tenacious player. So I think Andy was right to bring that up.
Can I just hit on one thing? You said it around the start, but I didn't look at it like this. The comparison of Martinez between Ramos and Pepe, and we have always spoken about the fact that Varane playing with Maguire, a very different type of centre-back, meaning that you're relying on Varane for so many different things. When you talk about comfort and being comfortable, I think maybe Varane's the one in that defence now that's feeling more comfortable than anyone because he has that player next to him that he knows the profile of. And oh my God, where do I start with De Gea?
I know.
How long do I have? How long do I? Mr. Ton said it earlier on with square pegs in round holes. And the problem is it's so obvious, and the team is having to sacrifice its whole system when De Gea's got the ball. Literally, they've got to play completely. It is literally every time the ball goes near him, it's boot it. It's literally route one, boot it. Don't mess about with it, De Gea. Boot it. And then you've got the issue with him on his line. I've never seen someone. He must have magnets in his boots or something to stop him getting off that. Genuinely, there was a joke on Twitter the other day that done, I think, something like 50,000 retweets, right? And it was basically a drug-based joke on De Gea's line, and it was so right. It's ridiculous. If you saw it, you saw it. I've never seen a goalkeeper so scared to come off of his line. And sometimes, by the way, it helps because a couple of the saves, he had to be there. And some keepers might have come and got that horribly wrong. But then there's other times when it's just you've got to command your area, Dad. You've got to command it. Richie, let me come over to you and talk to you about Malacia. What have you made of his starting a red shirt? And how excited are you to see this kid grow?
Well, as Ton, I've spoken to Ton about this a lot. This is a left back that we've needed. I'm glad that Ten Hag has now seen it, because if I'm honest, Luke Shaw's been here too long. Any serious club would have moved him on about 4 to 5 years ago anyway. Malacia's showing you what a real left back is, modern day left back anyway. You can see that he's trusted with a lot of things that is asked with him, where you can see he takes central positions a lot. You see that obviously he can actually attack. He actually gets in the face of his winger. He doesn't give him any space, where Luke Shaw will drop off, be lazy, lackadaisical when he goes out to shut the winger down. What's his name? Terrell doesn't do that. Do you know what I mean? He's in his face. He's like a little pit bull. Do you know what I mean? That's something that we've needed. I think the best thing that Ten Hag or Man United in things should do is cash in on Luke Shaw and bring back Fernandez, the young left back, and let them two battle the left back position out. Personally, I wanted to keep Tellez personally. I just like Tellez. I thought he was a much better fit for us than Luke Shaw. But obviously he's moved on. Yes, it is on loan, but I potentially look like he will be gone next summer. But like I said, I'm happy with Malacia. Bring Fernandez back next summer. Just let them two be the left backs. Everyone else talked about the defensive unit. I thought the Liverpool match and this match, we looked much more assured. For myself, I didn't feel like I was panicking because Maguire wasn't there. I can trust this back four. I'm not a big fan of Delo, but he's starting to change what I feel about him. Yeah, I'm just happy with this unit. And Stu said it, I said it to Tom. For me, that Liverpool match, De Gea looked much more comfortable with the defenders in front of him than what he had previously had. So all I can say is really let it just keep going, and hopefully none of them get injured, because we don't want to go back to what we already have, what we had, shall I say.
Yeah, I'm with you, mate. I think it's been superb, and yes, he has shown us what a proper modern day fullback can do. But for me as well, Gavin, let me come over to you. It's he doesn't hide from the ball. He wants the ball. I remember one point he didn't receive it, and the ball went over towards the right hand side, and he ended up slotting into like a central defensive midfielder position just because he saw a gap where potentially the ball could progress through him and then move out wide, and Sancho dropped deep a bit. He's always looking for the ball, and I would love to see our running stats. Surely no one covers more ground than Malacia. He just is always on the move.
He's basically the Fernandez of left back, Bruno Fernandez, in the way that he gets himself around the pitch, the energy and whatnot. You see the desire, that tenacity of Fred, but with the quality that he's got as well. He's been a bit of a revelation, because we sort of thought that he was coming in as a bit of a backup, but obviously I didn't watch him when he was in Ajax. Where am I on about? Yeah, I didn't watch him, and yeah, and he's been just a breath of fresh air. And you look across that back four now, you've got the calm of Varane, you've got the butcher in Martinez, Dalot is starting to come out of his shell, and then Malacia, he's basically rubber stamped his place on that left hand side, and I can't see Luke Shaw pushing his way back into the first team. And I think moving forward, I mean, we all said at the beginning of the season that the majority of the players would get a clean slate, and we'll see what Ten Hag can do with them. And I think Dalot is one of those players who is stepping up to that responsibility, and he's starting to show an improvement to what he was before. I think against Liverpool, the high line that we played was the first time that we'd seen what De Gea would be like with such a high line, and I think he did quite well. Whether he can do that persistently throughout the season, I'm not sure, because, like you say, it's like a magnet. But I suppose it could be anxiety. He's been like that for so long. He's had players like Maguire and Lindelof playing in front of him, and he's probably had to be planted on his line, because every time we play, we're inviting pressure. This time we're going to be in a system where we're the ones with the ball. We're with the ones with the high percentage of possession. We're the ones that are going to be on the front foot. So if he can adapt, as I do think Dubravka might push him, it's going to be a very interesting defence. 2 games, 1 goal conceded. You can't ask for better than that.
Just one slightly added caveat, as Ben says, Casemiro was a no-brainer, by the way, an absolute no-brainer. If you could get Casemiro, you buy it. It's the same as Brozovic, Modric and Kroos. If you can get any of those players, you just buy them. Kimmich, you just buy them because they're no-brainer players. As Ben said, in 10 minutes, Casemiro didn't do a huge amount, but he moved the ball 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 yards max all the time. And the confidence that you'll see now within our defensive 4, that's Casemiro, Martinez, Varane and De Gea, you'll just see a different type of smoothness, I would hope, because that one player, Casemiro, will just bring that level-headedness into a cauldron that, the football is. So, sorry, Gav, I just thought I'd mention that.
Do you know one thing just on Malacia, just to add? He made a mistake and gave the ball away quite early on in around our penalty area against Southampton. But he learnt from that mistake and then he pushed himself forward. And that says everything about his mentality. And I love that. Let's come on to you, Marcus, and talk about Martinez. Where would you start with this question? What have you loved about seeing him in the United shirt so far?
Oh, it's 100% the attitude. As Mr. Ton touched on earlier, I've been saying it in all my videos talking about Malacia, it's very rare for a coach to come in to the Premier League, sign 3 players. Obviously, we've signed 5 now, but 3 who've been integrated into the team quite well and quite seamlessly, and they all play well, and they all look like they belong in a Manchester United shirt and in the Premier League. And Lisandro doesn't look out of place. Even in the game where we lost 4-0, I thought to myself, well, it's not really his fault, is it? There's bigger issues at play. And if you look at his performances in isolation, yes, there's mistakes. You can point mistakes out in every player on that pitch. However, with Lisandro, it's something that we've been crying out for a very long time. He's a player who gets it. And I know the modern football fan kind of makes fun of passion merchants, but the beauty about Lisandro is he isn't just a passion merchant. He's got the technical ability and the footballing IQ to back it up. That's what makes it so sweet, is he's got the best of all 3 worlds. He's got the mentality, he's got the ability, and he's got the intelligence. So there really isn't many weaknesses to his game, despite the fact that Jamie Carragher was banging on about his height and saying that that's the reason Brighton played so many long balls against us. It's ludicrous how people still haven't caught on to the fact that it's not true.
Can I also butt in here as well before you continue and just pick up on Gabby Habonlahor's ridiculous comments as well on TalkSport? Yeah. And I can't even believe I'm entertaining this. But how can someone go on a platform and say Che Adams showed that when you go up against Martinez, you can win the ball in the air? And Che Adams didn't win the fucking ball in the air once against Martinez the whole entire game. This narrative...
5 for 5, yeah. I was going to say 5 for 5, wasn't it?
This narrative about him not winning any... He's won it all of his aerial duels so far.
The numbers don't back it up. So I don't... When I heard that comment, I didn't get it because the numbers on the game don't back it up.
No. The numbers don't back it up at all. But what's even more frustrating to me is that, again, there seems to be an over-focus on one variable. So... let me make an example. If somebody is analyzing a game, and if you're a football fan who likes tactics and you like looking at a game of football, in any given situation, a good analyst looks at multiple variables. So if a goal is conceded, they don't just say, it's this guy's fault. I'm going to focus on his lack of height. I'm going to focus on his lack of this, his lack of that. No, a good analyst looks at all the variables involved. What happened leading up to that goal? And what pisses me off about Lisandro Martinez and the analysis of him isn't even that people are going after his height. Let's just pretend Lisandro Martinez is bad in the air. Why are you only talking about him? You know what I mean? It's just ridiculous that they're only fixating on him. It makes no sense.
Can I just jump in on there about that, Marcus? Can I just jump in there about that? And you know why he's so good, Martinez, is he watches the flight of the ball. You ever watch him? He watches the flight of the ball. If the ball's coming in too quick and he's right behind whoever it may be, it doesn't matter who he is, the centre forward, he won't jump for it because he's got no chance on a standing jump. If he's got time to adjust to the flight of the ball, he'll take 2 steps back. That's why he wins the headers.
Yeah,
he's smart. He's smart in his play.
Yeah, Yeah, and that's another thing I was actually going to say. Like, one thing that defines Lisandro Martinez, like you said, Stu, is he understands his strengths and weaknesses. So even when it's like we're not talking about heights or aerial duels, talk about ground duels. He knows what his strengths and weaknesses are, and his the way he complements Varane is perfect, because he knows that he's got Varane behind him, so he knows he can be aggressive. He can wander out of position. He can go and actually try and get the ball. And if it doesn't work for whatever reason, A, he's got the recovery pace to come back anyways, but B, he's got Varane behind him, and there's a system, so everybody knows that he's got that license to do whatever he wants, and Varane is going to kind of just sit back. So he's somebody who clearly has a good tactical understanding of the game, and he understands what his role is, and that is, it's just, you know, there's very rarely any weaknesses to like, there's very rarely a player that you see who has such little weaknesses to their game. And yeah, man, we are lucky to have Lisandro Martinez. I saw a tweet earlier saying basically we paid a combined fee for Antony and Lisandro. It's above like 100 mil. I can't remember what the exact figure was. And they said basically we've only paid 20 million for Antony because the rest of the money is for Lisandro. That's how good he is. And I laughed and I was like, actually, that's a good way of looking at it when you think about it.
Yeah, 100%. It's been a great signing. And do you know the other thing that I love? And of course, I watch Manchester United more than anyone, so don't take this comment out of context. I know so many people will. He's the first defender I've seen, particularly at United, that within 5 minutes you can guarantee that he will either commit a foul or be on the edge of committing a foul just because he wants his centre forward to know that he's there. He would do it every game, and he's done it so far. And I love that, because that makes the striker or the attacker just have that extra little thought the next time that they go up against him in a duel. He stamps his authority on the game, and I love that. Mr. Ton, you knew quite a bit of Martinez before he joined us, but what have you made of his start? And also this centre-back pairing with Varane, are you feeling particularly safe at the moment with these two lining up next to each other each game?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I sort of knew it wasn't going to work with the Maguire and him, because that's why I wanted Timber, because Timber would have helped and Maguire better, and I knew that pairing wasn't going to work. But the biggest thing that concerned me the most, and I was on a space and people was getting on to me when I mentioned it, was the communication between them. I said it on the channels, or I didn't like that. So there was, and especially from your captain who's supposed to command the back line. There was one instance, I forgot what game it was. I don't know if it was the Brighton or Brentford, and in the build up to the goal, Maguire had so much time. He even looked over his shoulder twice. He could have communicated between Lisandro, because Lisandro was waiting for what Maguire's going to do, but he didn't communicate. He had about at least a 30-second window to even organise the back line. There was no threat around him at the time, because the ball, he was just literally ball watching, and his position of his body was in the back position. So because of his lack of agility, he can't get out of that. So that's when Welbeck ran behind him, also the Brighton game. So then I picked up and I kept on telling people on spaces, communication is going to be a big problem there. And then Maguire spoke about it at the end of the game. It's funny how when Ten Hag got asked about, you know, Varane, he's a winner, he's a leader, good communication. And then even after the game, he spoke about it, good communication. Then Varane, in his interview after the game, said we communicate good together. You see, it doesn't matter what your qualities are, but what you have to, especially when you're leading on a pitch, you have to communicate. And that's one of been Maguire's flaws, is lack of communicating and organising your defence, which is led to players running in behind, or players getting an onside when they should be offside because you can't command the back line. So the partnership makes sense to me. And I like the emphasis what Ten Hag is saying about a winner. Varane's a winner. When he talks about Casemiro, he's a winner. So you're bringing players, as we've been talking the whole time on the panel about mentality, characters. You're now bringing winners into the side, people that know what it takes to win. So next to Varane and Lisandro in his league that he come from was a winner also. Do you get? So it makes sense to me. Two centre backs that know what it takes to win. It makes sense. Varane's been there and done it. Do you know what I mean? And national team, for those that don't think he's a leader with Varane, go look at his documentary. He's got a documentary. The guy's a leader. So I was even shocked. I never thought, I said it on the channel before, I never thought that about Varane until I watched that documentary. I didn't see how he was in the Real Madrid dressing room. I didn't see how he was in the France dressing room. So when I saw that documentary, it was an eye-opener for me. I'm like, wow, I never knew Varane was like, we're getting that character at Man United. So with Lisandro, I feel like they're complementing each other. Like, because Varane's a very good sweeper, and I said it in the preseason how he gets the ball quick out of his feet. What helps as well, he doesn't dwell on the ball. Varane literally 2 touches, balls out of his feet. He's playing it away. And with Lissandro, the way Lissandro plays is like a bully sort of centre back, even though he's height. What he lacks up for height, he doesn't, in his temperament, he's a bully. And like what Stu said, I think earlier with Varane's partners before, they've been that similar profile, like bullies. Do you know what I mean? And that helps him. It clearly helps him. I think the partnership, to be honest, when I'm watching the game, when I watch a Liverpool game, not one point, even though we didn't have a lot of possession of the ball, I was never nervous. Even the last game I watched, I didn't feel, I just felt like my back foot is comfortable. I'll be honest to you. I felt like they're comfortable. And it's a weird feeling to actually watch Man United and the back four. You're not worried about your back four. I'm not, this one's got a mistake in him. I'm not worried. So it's a good feeling as a United fan.
My biggest concern was when the ball went back to De Gea. Every time I was just screaming, lump it, lump it.
Yeah.
That was about it, lump it. And then I think a few times, who was it who got the ball in the final third? I think it was Fernandez. And I was just like, please just keep hold of the ball. Don't do anything stupid. Just keep hold of it. Don't do anything stupid with it. But that is one thing that we do need to take away from the Southampton. Look, we won ugly, but you've got to. It's a tricky. We never, ever rock up to St Mary's and put in a stunning performance and walk away feeling like we're prime Barcelona. It just doesn't happen. And to do that away from home in the Premier League is a very rare occurrence. And only a few teams manage to do that. You have to be prepared to win ugly. Like even when we went on that incredible away win run, the majority, like quite a few of those games were second half FC, and we came up with that whole thing. That wasn't winning games pretty. That was winning games by the skin of our teeth. And like you said, but there was a certain control there, Stu, but there was also not a control there. The midfield really dropped off after our first goal, and we couldn't keep hold of the ball. What would you put that down to?
It's a funny look. Our midfield drives me up the fucking wall. It really does. When you look at the types of players that we've got the, Ericsson, Fernandez, and then, we got the McFred, and now we've got Casemiro. You're going to see a different type of midfield moving forward because Casemiro is going to run it. So Casemiro is going to get his baton out. He's going to be telling Ericsson where he wants him. He's going to be telling Fernandez where he wants him. Bruno's in for a bit of a rude awakening, I'm afraid. He really is, because he's going to have somebody who's going to dictate his play to him as well. A good centre midfielder dictates the play. He dictates the tempo, whether he speeds it up, slows it down, moves it to the left or to the right. He's the one that dictates the play. He's the one that everything goes through, and it gets lost in football a lot. That does, because you see a good centre midfielder, and he's only doing 2 or 3 yard passes. I said before about Jan Mulvey, he never ever came out the centre circle. He used to walk around everywhere, but his passing was precision. His tempo was right at the right time. Jordan Henderson's very, very similar, but the real key, the real lock is Fabinho. Not so much Thiago, not so much Henderson, but Fabinho. Fabinho's the one that's getting the ball, knocking it. Verratti does it for PSG. Casemiro did it for Real Madrid. He's now going to do it for us. We haven't had control in the midfield for years, absolute years. And Ten Hag is slowly but surely turning the screw to what he wants. And I think I would imagine Casemiro will start against Leicester. I can't think of any reason why he wouldn't. It's what you do alongside him. It's, do you go with Ericsson? Do you go with Fred? Because the Casemiro-Fred partnership is exceptional for Brazil. We all know this is their go-to midfield. I don't think McTominay's got a life anymore in terms of starting. I think he's going to be reduced to the bench. So it'll be very interesting to see whether Ten Hag will trust Ericsson, Bruno, and Casemiro. Me and Mr. Ton, we discussed Bruno and Ericsson before, haven't we? Not quite sure whether it's the right package. Do you play one or do you play the other? I don't know, really.
I was going to say, let's also remember that Bruno in that first half, and we'll call it an eye for an eye, was horrendous. He was absolutely horrendous that first half. There's no other way around it. He was really poor, to the point where I was commenting he needs to come off at half. Like, if we're judging him on that performance and we're saying, right, changes need to be made, he needs to be hooked because he was that bad in that first half. Now, he scored that goal and he did calm down a bit and he did play better in the second half. But it seems to be a common theme this at the moment, actually, with Ten Hag. He gets him in at half time. And it's been a theme over the past few years. And we tend to play a little bit better. I mean, we lost control, and Ten Hag said at the end, that's the next step. We need to start controlling games. But individual performances seem to improve. We saw it in Rashford. We saw it in Bruno. So Bruno's got to be really careful. You said it earlier on. But, Richie, this is a question for you then. If Casemiro does come in now into this midfield, from what you've seen against Southampton, who plays with him? Do you go 4-3-3 and sort of play maybe more Eriksen and Bruno with him? Or do you go 4-2-3-1 and maybe change it around?
I'll go 4-3-3. I would keep Eriksen for one more game personally, and I believe the only person that I would actually play in there at the moment, I'm not as biggest fan is. I know what Stu's just said, but I actually might play McTominay. I just cannot have Bruno Fernandes playing for Manchester United. He is a criminal. Honestly, he actually is, and he gets away with a lot. Fans, he might have scored that goal yesterday, and fans are focused on that. Yes, he runs around, but he runs around like a headless chicken. I'm sorry, but I play Scott McTominay before I would play Bruno Fernandes. And Eriksen can be what people think Bruno is. Yes, Eriksen does give the ball away a lot, but I actually feel safer when Eriksen has the ball because he doesn't always hit a long diag. He doesn't always try and look for Ronaldo. He doesn't try and look for this or that ball. He'll keep it short if he needs to. That's where I would play. I'd rather Scott McTominay for the legs. But yeah, I'd go with that midfield. I just wouldn't play Bruno, if I'm honest.
It's interesting because at half time I did put out he's got to be careful. So I
saw your tweet. Yeah, I saw your tweet.
I'm sort of with you. I mean, it's difficult with the McTominay thing. I'm sort of with you a bit, Stu. I'd like to see Fred in that midfield with Casemiro. Can you translate international to Premier League? Let's not forget, by the way, in the majority of the South American football that they play at international level, it isn't of the highest of standard. I'm not trying to diminish it, but it's not of the highest of standard. But friendly football, they're still doing all right. They've dropped off a bit, Brazil, but
they'll be in Qatar. It'll be those two in Qatar.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It will be interesting. Go on, Gavin.
For me personally, I would like to see Eriksen move forward to the number 10. I'd like to at least see Donny have a little bit of a run out at 8 because he can play that position, and then have 6 Casemiro as the 6, because I think the calm on the ball and the control of the ball that Eriksen has in that final third, Bruno can do it, but he just doesn't do it enough. He's very, random in his play. He can play the killer pass, but then he can try and do it and send it into the stands. You never know whether you're going to get a ball to feet. I've seen Eriksen play in that position and be a magician for that front line. And having the likes of Casemiro as the number 6, it allows the players ahead of him to be able to have license to play the games they want to play. So I think Fred would be a decent, person to have there, but we are still beholden to his first touch, which isn't great. But I would like to see Donny at least have a few games just so that we can say, yes, he's good, or no, he's not. He just doesn't seem to be getting any chances.
Donny's an interesting shout, Gavin, because Casemiro would give him the space and the license. He wouldn't have to sort of kick back too much here, give him some space. Marcus, what are you making of all this? Let's keep on this. By the way, get in the live chat, guys. There's loads of you watching right now. Let's get loads of you putting in that live chat your midfield 3 for Leicester. if we're saying that Casemiro is going to come in, or maybe you're not, if we are though saying that Casemiro is going to come in, who else plays in that midfield three? You got Richie there wouldn't play Bruno. Gavin's there saying let's give Donny a go. Stu's talking about the Fred Brazilian connection. Marcus, what would you do?
Yeah, I posted a midfield three, I think about a week ago on Twitter, basically saying that I would like to see Donny, Eriksen, and Casemiro at the time, because I think that Donny van de Beek would have the qualities to thrive in this team. Obviously, for whatever reason, Erik ten Hag hasn't played Donny van de Beek, but it's still early days. You know, I think things could change very, very quickly in 12 months' time. So I wouldn't read too much into that. I mean, this is a guy who's been talking very positively about Cristiano Ronaldo, who we all know wants to leave the club. This is also a guy who's been talking very positively about Maguire, and then he's gone and dropped Maguire. This is also a guy who's been talking very positively about Marcus Rashford playing as a number 9, who we all know won't play as a number 9 long term. So I wouldn't read too much into Erik ten Hag's PR at the moment and what he's saying publicly versus what he's doing. I would just kind of let's see what he does. But on the point of everybody else has made about Fred potentially coming in. Listen, whether you like it or not, there are players in this team who are going to improve. Some of them will be your least favorite players. Why? Because we finally have a coach who has a clear play style and has a clear vision of how he wants to play. And not only that, but he's a very good tactician. No disrespect to our previous managers, but many people have said that one of the biggest issues in this team was A, lack of coaching, and B, a lack of principle in the way that we wanted to play. So I think whether it's Fred, whether it's McTominay, there will be an improvement. Also, if Casemiro is in that team, people saying, you know, Fred's first touch, you know, is not going to change because Casemiro's here. Well, it won't be that big of a deal now that Casemiro's the one receiving the ball off the back four. We won't have to worry about Fred giving it away in dangerous areas. If anything, Fred can do what Fred does best, and that's playing a more advanced role, break up the play when the opposition has the ball, be a very useful player, in his words, who carries the piano for the artist to play. So I think it could work, especially if Eriksen is the one playing in the 10. If Eriksen is the one taking the responsibility and sort of carrying the creative responsibilities on his shoulders, it won't matter who's playing next to him that much as long as Casemiro is in the midfield. That's just my sort of 2 cents on it. But personally, I would play Donny just so I don't be a fence sitter, you know.
It's interesting. Ben Josh says Casemiro, Fred, Eriksen, although I don't think he'll drop his temporary captain Fernandes. Box goes, I'd have Donny Garner ahead of Fred at 8. I'm just trying to have a look through. James has commented in. He's not happy with you, Rich. Apparently you're delusional playing Scott over Bruno, although 4 out of the 6 people here already have said that they wouldn't put Bruno in their midfield for Leicester. Come on, James.
I will say though, with regards to Fred and McTominay, both of them are better as box to box. You've seen what McTominay can do on the edge of the box when he's got that shot in him to score goals. So I do think there is a shout for McTominay to be as part of the squad. I just don't think he's ahead of some of the other players, but both him and Fred, they're not defensive midfielders. They are box-to-box midfielders.
Can I just quickly say, James, get your 3 in and tell us why. Get us your midfield 3 in and tell us why, and let's have a serious conversation about it. That's what we're here to do. We're here to all have an opinion.
It is a funny thing, isn't it? You can't criticise certain players at our club for whatever reason. You just can't do it. I went through a spate, Rich, by the way, of criticising Varane, and I was right to do it because I just picked him out on 5 or 6 goals he blatantly was the cause of last season. I got absolute pelters, mate. Absolute pelters.
Jarvis says Casemiro, Eriksen and Bruno, as long as Martial and Rashford plays, then Bruno is essential. They make each other better, progressive passes and progressive passes received. And Andrew goes midfield 3 of Casemiro, Fred and Eriksen. Go on, Mr. Ton. What's your midfield 3?
I'm personally going to go with what M said. Casemiro, I'll go with Donny and Eriksen, even though I know Donny's not going to get the chance yet. But the reason why I'm saying that, barring Bruno's goal, his overall performances, and that's how what I look at the most. In the last 4 games has not been good. Even if you look at the numbers, Liverpool game, bad. Passing, even his passing accuracy, the last game was bad. If you actually look at the numbers, it's bad. It's the work. He's doing everything bad, but except working hard. That's what he is doing right. He's doing that really good. But unfortunately, right now, that's what this team needs. It needs to work hard and fight and battle. We're not at that stage yet where we can control games and dominate games, even though I actually think Donny and Ericsson will help that together. And even off the sample size that I saw of them in the 2 friendlies, and the way they done 1-2s off each other, that will help that a lot. And Casemiro, I feel like he's going to help the team overall, because like Ten Hag said, he's the cement between the stones. And I'm assuming he's alluding to the centre-backs, right? And also between the bridge, between, you know, the attacking players and the defence. So what he's going to do is, like Ten Hag said it himself, allow the attacking players to play football. So you have that situation now. And I said this on a space before it happened. Yeah, it's funny, literally. So there's a moment I said that Casemiro's going to get the ball and who's going to pass to, right? He ain't got the best options, Scott, Fred, and so on. And there's a moment in the game, if anyone has time, go back. He tries to play a 1-2 with Scott McTominay, but he's already running. And it hits Scott McTominay's ankles and bounces off him. This is the problem. He's been used to having Tony Cruz, Modric around him. Yeah, and now he's like got the players we've got. Like, we do need a ball progressor, someone that can drive through that midfield and help a lot. If we don't get them, we don't get them. When the window closes, we've got to make what we do. But I definitely think Donny could help with that, with the 1-2s he can play off someone like Casemiro and at Ericsson. And the times when, like Ten Hag was talking about after the game yesterday, about we need to learn how to be better in possession. We need to learn how to control games. He said it as well after the Liverpool games. There's times in the game where players need to know to take that extra touch. That Donny will help that. That's just my opinion. But it's just the way. Don't get me wrong. Bruno's work rate, we need it right now for where the team is right now. Mm-hmm. And like M said, Ten Hag will make those decisions when he's ready. He done it with Luke Shaw. He's done it with Maguire. He's done it with Ronaldo. When he's ready and the time's right, he will make decisions. But I also think everyone's making a big deal about Maguire having the captaincy. Bruno being a captain it's irrelevant. They're not people that Ten Hag chose. He just carried on the what was left. Bruno was vice captain before Maguire was the leadership. He's left it. He wouldn't surprise me if he makes Varane or Casemiro one of the captains. The way he's been talking, they win. Their stature in the game, they've won so much. It just makes logical sense to make a winner and a leader someone a captain. But yeah, see what happens. But that's my 3 that I would love though. Casemiro, Donny, and Ericsson.
I also think you have leadership groups at clubs now. You don't necessarily have just like an outstanding skipper anymore. There's a bigger picture to it all, and too many personalities and egos to have one person who sort of puts their foot above everyone else's. Obviously my midfield 3, it doesn't need explaining. It's Charlie Savage, Zidane, Iqbal, and Tom Huddleston. I think United should be going with that 3.
Thank goodness Ben isn't in charge then, because we would all get relegated.
He got on for the under.
He can play in it. I swear he's got
Do you know what I mean?
He can play.
Huddleston was a player. He was a player.
He got on for the under 21s the other night.
When he could be bothered, Huddleston could play, couldn't he? When he could be asked. It's a bit like David Bentley. When David Bentley could be bothered, he could really play football. If anybody remembers David Bentley, you're all looking at me blank now, actually.
I still think the most slept-on footballer is JJ Okocha. He was fucking superb every time I watched him play. Like, absolutely superb, and he doesn't get the roses at all. He doesn't get spoken of.
Anyway, Ben, Jason answered you anyway.
Well, I was going to say, this is my midfield 3. I'd be playing Casemiro, Fred, and Bruno Fernandes. And look, with Bruno, I still stick by what I say, and I think people are really taking the Liverpool performance out of context with Bruno. I think he worked hard, but the whole team worked hard, and I don't think the club or the team deserved any negativity, around individual performance that day, because everyone put a shift in, whether they were superb on the ball or not. But there was a period for about 20 to 25 minutes at the end of the first into the second where McTominay and Bruno Fernandes couldn't keep hold of the football at all. Every time the ball was at their foot, they lost it. But we didn't need to talk about that at full time. We just beaten the Scousers, and the team worked hard, and there was no point in over-analysing it like that, because United still managed to keep their shape out of possession, worked hard off the ball to be able to counteract that. The one thing that I would say, Bruno Fernandes, and I'm clutching at straws and hoping here, the best Bruno Fernandes is a hungry Bruno Fernandes, and he's showing that he's hungry at the moment with the way that he's playing. I'm hoping that goal might just add a little bit of finesse to him, because. Oh, go on, Marcus.
I was just going to say to add to what you were going to say. Sorry for cutting you off, but also a thing with Bruno Fernandes. If you look at his time at Sporting Lisbon, yes, the Portuguese league isn't as good as the Premier League, but one thing he had at Sporting Lisbon, if you listen to how he spoke about his coach, you read the scouting reports, you actually go watch some of the footage if you have access to it. He had specialism. He had a specific role within the team that he had to do. I think at Manchester United, under Oli and a bit under Ranić, he was maybe not deliberately given license, but it was almost an unwritten rule that, Bruno, you're the main man, you're the number 10, everything goes through you, so whatever you think is necessary, do it. And if you score a goal, you get an assist and pick up the 3 points, I won't complain. You know, there was almost that element, that vibe to it. Now, I think under Erik ten Hag, he might actually improve. Yes, I know he hasn't been great for the first 4 games, but again, it's only 4 games. So we'll pick up this conversation again in a year. And I'm a big fan of Bruno, even though I haven't put him in my midfield 3, obviously because he hasn't performed. I think he will improve. He will. Yeah. Erik ten Hag will be giving him set instructions on what he wants him to do. And with Casemiro in the team now, and maybe someone like Eriksen having a staple place in the team, it will become more clear what he needs to do. And once he understands that, I mean, he's got the technical ability. I know he gives the ball away a lot, and that's because that's got more to do with temperament and decision-making and bad habits and less to do with ability. You know, Bruno Fernandes has the ability. He just needs to change his mindset.
But also naturally, when you're confident and happy and things are going well for you, a lot more naturally comes off than doesn't when you're in the opposite sort of way of things, I suppose what I'm trying to say. So mentality is a massive thing, and that finish was beautiful. It was a really well taken goal, like a really well taken goal. And for me, I just hope now that he can kick on. So I wouldn't personally take him out of the team at this point. I'd want him to play. He needs to go into that Leicester game. He needs to score another goal. We need to get a penalty. He needs to take it. Just do everything you can, because if everything's going through Bruno Fernandes, like you've just said there, Marcus, he needs to be happy. He needs to be confident. He needs to have the weight of the world on his shoulders, and he needs to be firing United forward, because if there's any player in that side that can do that, it is Bruno Fernandes, because he is a gem, and we've actually seen it. So it's just about getting the best out of him now. So I totally agree. Look, lads, we've done nearly 90 minutes. So I think we should call it there. We've discussed a lot of stuff. If you've just joined us now or towards the end of this live stream, rewind it to the beginning where we talk about Antony and the signing of Antony. Some great analysis in there from Mr. Ton, and we'll look at how he fits in. We spoke about the transfer fee, and we were honest about it and what we thought about that money. So please, guys, get involved with that. Hit a like on the video. Again, those you watching, if you've not subscribed yet, we're live every Sunday, Monday, Wednesday at 10 p.m. So join us. It's 10 p.m. UK time. And also on top of that, we are live on a Friday, but the time varies depending on the press conference. So do join us again on Friday. We get some transfer shows out this week as well, although we're only expecting one more signing after Antony, and that's looking like Dubravka, the goalkeeper from Newcastle. It looks like he'll be the one coming in on loan initially. So we'll wait and see what develops. So, already we haven't talked about Stu's grip socks. Oh no, Jarvis, what a shame.
Sorry, Jarvis.
What a shame. Many thanks to Richie, to Mr. Ton, to Marcus, to Gavin, to Stu. Thank you guys for watching. As I said, hit a like and subscribe. For now though, guys, we'll speak to you soon. Ciao for now.